What's going on, guys? It's April 11th, I think. Yeah, 11th. Midnight. A little after midnight. And this is kind of like a video response to a video. One of my buddies here on YouTube was asking about these lights. And I figured I'd show, what they look like, kind of how they light things up at night. It would be pitch dark out here without them. And some things about the solar things. I have two 100 watt polycrystalline photovoltaic panels. Photovoltaic panels or polycrystalline panels are a little larger than a monocrystalline. Kind of like photovoltaics, kind of like the Harbor Freight panel, but the Harbor Freight panel is film, like a solar film. I don't know really a whole lot about that, but basically the older technologies was actually better at capturing low light. So if you was to set up kind of like where mine is in a fixed position, then they don't track the sun. You're probably better off with a photovoltaic or polycrystalline panel. If you gotta track the sun, you'd be better off with a monocrystalline, because they are more efficient and they don't take as much space. So my panels they're like, I don't know, maybe 3 foot tall, 2 foot wide. Each panel is. The bulbs outside. These are 12 volt bulbs. They screw into an Edison socket just like a regular light bulb. I bought 10 of them because that was the best way to get a good price on them. They was $4 a piece delivered to my door. If you buy 10 of them, got them off of eBay. And they're not exactly what they say they are. They say they're 15 watt, but let's see. Where's my calculator at? My calculator. Both bulbs together. It's 1.7 amp times. Let's just say the voltage is 12.5. So they're like 10.5 volts or 10.5 watts a piece, something like that. So both bulbs together is 21.25 watts, and they put off about the equivalent of light of, say, two 10-watt CFLs, like you would screw into your outlet. These are 20 watt or 19 watters. How they're ran is, most of these cheap Chinese controllers, my other one took a crap. Basically, it would never turn off the load, so that wasn't good. And when I come out, it would float charge at 14 volts, but when I come out and turn on an inverter, it would just dump whatever was coming off the panels and shut my inverter down and stuff. And that's why I had to kludge this switch that's probably not really adequate for the job, but that's why the switch is on there. And right now the lights are actually kind of kludged up with this wire, which I'm going to change that out just one step at a time. A little about the solar setup. I've already told you about the panels. This thing here, this charge controller is sweet. It has a lot of function. 11 degrees Celsius, doesn't do Fahrenheit. This would be amperage coming in from the panels. This would be the amperage right now to the lights outside. 1.7 amps is the amperage going to the lights. This is how much solar this thing's brought in since I hooked it up, 46 ampere hours. So it's been on here for like 24 hours. Yeah, 24 hours, and it wasn't very sunny today. It got sunny later in the evening, and my load so far has used 16 ampere hours. That's 2 nights worth of running, and this is, you can set this right here to what you want the panels to turn off at. I got it set at 14 volts. It's adjustable. The load on don't make any sense to me. You can actually adjust that, but basically I'm thinking that the load won't turn on unless it's over 13.5, and the load will turn off at 11.5, which is adjustable. So if you want to protect your batteries, you can set this up. I currently have it set to run 6 hours. The light's outside. And here, back to the main screen. This is currently what the batteries are at, which right now they're under a load because the inverter's running and it's running all these lights in here. And microwave, drill chargers are plugged in. This fidgety thing that never seems to want to, it operates when it feels like it, but it's plugged in. I have an amp meter. I'll show you that here real quick. Let's see, we'll turn this guy on right here, which uses it quite a bit when you first fire it up. Here, I'll try to zoom in. Oh, a little bit too close. Alright, see if I can hold this steady while I turn it on. The amp meter is kind of fun to play with. I mean, it's not all that accurate. I can't seem to calibrate it out without, you have to actually cut into this shank to calibrate it, or solder in what's cut out on it already. But when you first turn it on with nothing running, it says minus 0.4 amps. So it's pretty close. And it also toggles between voltage. So on a previous video I did on an inverter review, one of the guys was asking about the voltage drop, and I don't have any. So, which this thing is kind of fidgety with voltage too. It does have some potentiometers on the back, and I had it calibrated exactly to what this thing is, but you know, it seems to be, the temperature seems to mess with it. It's a lot colder right now than what it was when I calibrated it. But so it's more of a reference thing than it is anything. It's fun to play with. The batteries. Oh, stepping over my crap. These two batteries right here are wired or just hooked with clamps to the other batteries. Pretty much when I come out here to run for the day, I'll unhook them. They're just on there to keep them topped off. And there's a battery up at the top there, same way. It has little clamps going down just to keep it topped off. It's supposed to be unhooked right now actually, but I just came out here to make the video and the lights. I have 4 Group 27 deep cycles. 2 of them is a year old, 2 of them is new. You're supposed to have all the same age, but you know how things goes. I mean, you just can't buy everything at one time. I have a standard car battery and another, yeah, that guy up there at the top's a car battery. But a Group 27 deep cycle, from what I found, they could be 100 to 120 ampere hour a piece. I have tested these batteries, and what I did was I put them on an inverter and put a 100-watt light bulb on them, and they was able to run the 100-watt light bulb for 7 hours. So 100 watts for 7 hours, for 7 hours, for 7 hours, for 7 hours. So, you know, it can run, you know, basically, if figure it at 400 watts, I can run 400 watts for you know, 7 hours. You know, not counting in the car batteries. And you got Puchert's law. So figuring if each one of these can run 100 watt by itself on an inverter, they should be able to run 400 watts for probably longer than 7 hours, because you have more batteries connected together. So maybe 10 hours even. As far as running the lights, they use 1.7 amps. You know, so I'm at 1.9 right now. I guess it kind of floats around. Basically, I could probably turn off the solar panels and run those lights for weeks. So how I know that this system has no trouble at all is, well, you know, you had 16 ampere hours there for 2 days. I brought in 46 in one day of light. That's 1 day's worth of light. And 2 nights, that is 2 nights worth on the load. So right there tells you that my system bringing in well more than what the bulbs use. Plus, when I come out with the other controller, I come out here the next day, even after using, you know, like you see, I keep track of what I use on a kilowatt meter, which I'm retired it because I can just keep track of what I bring in. And if I keep track of the ampere hours coming in, you know, basically if the batteries are completely charged, this thing is only going to bring in, you know, what it takes to charge them. It would float and consume some ampere hours, but you know, not much. So pretty much I can keep track of what I use by keeping track of the ampere hours coming in, and then it also is, you know, figuring in my inefficiencies. This is inefficient, you know, by like 15% inefficient. And then, you know, you got things like this running all the time. This, you know, the device itself, you know, that's charging the batteries is running all the time, which I'm sure it probably only uses a couple milliamps, but, you know, that would be. Now, how are these batteries wired up? I've mentioned it before, but you know, figure I'll go over it again. I've seen other guys do a system where they do, you know, battery, a battery, a battery, a battery, and then they use like zero gauge cabling, run across all the batteries to their load and to their charger. And I've also ran into some guys that actually had problems with that. Is that the first battery and the second battery? The first battery will degrade really fast because every time you turn on a heavy load like this, the first battery is the closest one to the load, and you know that battery will degrade faster, and then it'll go on down the line unless you know occasionally rotate your batteries around. That'd be a possible thing you could do. But when I was designing this whole thing, I've watched so many videos, and well, another one is the expense of the zero gauge cabling. It's very expensive. How I did this is I bought jumper cables. These jumper cables here are 8 gauge, and I also got some wire. Basically, it was cables that ran to machines that run on a track back and forth, and it drug these cables. And after a while, the cables will break on the ends, and work will just throw the whole cable onto a pile. And so they kind of like donated to the cause. But and this would be 4 gauge cables. What I did was I ran the 4 gauge cables to the longest for this distance, and then the 8 gauge are the closer ones. And then all the batteries are individually ran. Each battery has its own fuse, which you see there's different kinds here. I actually went and bought a whole pack of maxi fuses. I was going to change all these out, but then I realized I need to change my ends. But Then it goes to this bus, and then the inverter is double 4-gauge ran. So, and I can run up to 1500 watts and only get a couple of tenths voltage drop. And that's tested with other meter besides this one. But this meter here is directed, hooked directly to the bottom of the inverter. And I've also used my voltmeter and put on there. I only have a couple tenths of voltage drop, which is perfectly fine. These are 300 amp switches. They are cheapos off of eBay. I actually think this one here is going to crap, but I was turning these on and off every day. These switches are not really intended to be turned off on a daily basis. They're more of a, something goes up in smoke, you need to go over here and turn it off. And I have had to, when I put this in, this right here was a bottleneck. When I put this in, it had a certain amount of resistance to it. Basically, that's how it works. It measures the resistance of these pieces of metal. But I had this cabling was looped around on a previous video, and I had to shorten them up. So I took probably about 8 inches or 6 to 8 inches out of them, and that got me back to no voltage drop condition. So everything works fine. And I also, every time you add switches, that's why there's 2 of them. There has to be 2 switches so that I don't have voltage drop condition because of the connections and everything that has to do with them. Each cable, you see here, each cable has 2 connectors on it. They're back to back, so that way I didn't have to go spend $8 on 2 of these deals right here. I actually got packs of like 8 for $4, and I just doubled them up. Just put 2 connectors on each wire. These buses right here is from a hardware store, and they're for a breaker box. They are aluminum. Brass or something would be better, or copper would be better. Copper would be better. So I would suggest, if you was to ever do a system with the individual runs like this, I would build a rack that half your battery is going to be on one side, half's going to be on the other, so that way you don't have to go so far of runs. I wasn't really thinking that through whenever I did this. So I ended up with one big tower, and you end up with longer runs. But one of the things to consider also with the individual runs is that if fully loaded, these things only have to handle 20 to 40 amps each cabling setup. So you don't have to have the 0-gauge cabling. So alright, I think that's about all I got on it. I'm sure I have people say how it ain't right and all that. It works for me. It's working. I can run this microwave and cook 4 people a meal in it, and none of this cabling overheats. The inverter doesn't shut off, so it works. I've had just people come in this garage and look at this and say it looks like a mess. Everybody's solar setup looks like this somewhere. A lot of guys I've seen have panels, all this stuff's hidden behind something, and all you see is, the battery, the wires coming out to the devices. So it's just, mine's not hidden. I'd rather not have it hidden in case, I do notice something getting warm or whatever, bad connection. I don't have this thing catching my garage on fire behind a wall somewhere. So I'd rather have it right here where I can see it, monitor it. The batteries are open, and I'm currently like vented. There's vents in the ceiling. I don't have a ceiling in here. if I did, you might be actually be better off sealing all this off, having these inside of a cabinet with some kind of small fan, blowing the circulating air outside because of the gases that comes off the batteries. But I'm not too concerned about it because how open this garage is. Soffit on the edges, and it's all open right here, no ceiling. So for at this point, I'm not real too concerned. If I end up with a junk battery, you know how batteries can eventually short out and go bad. Usually you can smell it. You'll get the smell of a battery and you'll know something's going on with it. I've had it happen several times before on, you know, vehicles or whatever. And another thing that'll be a dead giveaway is I come out here and see I record my ampere hours usage for the week, or what I brought in, which is usage. You know, I see some large number on here where basically it was just taking in every bit it could. I probably have something that's drawing power, which would be a shorted battery. Alright, I don't know how long this video is getting, but I'll catch you guys later.